sponsored by the Digama Group.
Welcome to Rumbo Minero. Welcome, Cesar. How are you?
Nice to meet you, Jorge.
My name is Jorge Leon Benavides, and together with Cesar Campos, we are going to develop this program, which is very full. We have just finished this week the Peru Mining Business. It is the event organized by the Digama Group, the annual conference where we can see different economists. We can know a little bit about politics and mining. We have also had the presence of international economists to talk about mining, the world, and national economy. Really very complete, Cesar, wasn't it?
Completely, because in fact, we have an international mining economic bloc, a national mining economic bloc, a political bloc, in which, thanks to the willingness of Jorge Leon Benavides, we were able to conduct an interesting panel. And finally, the business leaders, the most important ones, who told us about all the problems they have suffered in the so-called tramitomania. Some call it tramitology, but in effect, we were able to provide a complete overview of the current mining situation in the world, and particularly in Peru.
Now, what Cesar says is something he has been able to see in the events, especially in this event, the projects that are ready to go ahead. How long, we have been told. How long have they taken in the paperwork? More than 10 years, 15 years, when everything should be ready in 2 years. That is the truth. Peru needs it. And a final message on the summaries of this is that we have to speak as José Gonzáles spoke, which you will also be able to see. José Gonzáles was talking about copper resources, but mineable. He means that a mine can be made. For example, in Australia, there is a large copper area. It has many copper reserves, but it is not possible to mine there. If we talk about mineable resources, Peru is #1 in the world. Important data, which we are going to see later on. I also wanted to tell you that this 2024, we must remain optimistic. The modernization of the FTA with China, the FTA with India, the FTA with Hong Kong, everything will be ready. The APEC, our Expo Mina too. This one, we have a 2024 CSR with you who are a specialist in politics. This one with a look at Peru, with probably the president of China inaugurating the port of Chancay, CSR.
That's right, November 2024. We already know APEC will take place. The main leaders of the Asia-Pacific economies will be present in Peru, and of course, Expo Mina will be practically adapted to the APEC vision, which is going, in the case of our event, to be held in September. APEC will take place in November, and we are going to give a very accurate approach on this matter. Do you think, Jorge, if I announce what we have today? A general summary of this Peru Mining Business event in its 9th version, interviews with Luis Miguel Castilla, former Minister of Economy and partner of Videnza Instituto, Andrés Franco, General Manager of Bear Creek Mining, and Diego Macera, Director of the Central Reserve Bank of Peru, as well as Álvaro Barrenechea, advisor to the CEO of Minera Chinalco. Very interesting interviews that you cannot miss.
We are going to add to this, because we have a great program, we are going to add to this the visit to the El Toro mine of Summa Gold in Huamachuco, La Libertad region. This is a very important report on this mine. So let's go with the program. Before that, we go to Gabriela Chicoma for the main mining news of the week.
Thank you, Jorge. Here is the top mining news of the week. Canada's Camino Minerals Corporation confirmed that its exploration partner, Nitetsu Mining Co. of Japan, will contribute a second payment of $1 million, about $5 million, to move forward with the next phase of exploration at the Los Chapitos copper project located in Arequipa. Summa Gold Corporation, the company that currently operates the El Toro mine in Huamachuco, La Libertad, expects to start up a new operation in southern Peru between 2027 and 2029, as detailed exclusively to Rumbo Minero by its CEO Jaime Polar. The company has several confidentiality agreements signed for advanced projects, but there is one that will soon have results.
Thank you very much to Gabriela Chicoma. Well, next we are going to have a summary of Peru Mining Business. Do not miss it, and also some very important interviews. Go ahead.
With the presence of the Minister of Energy and Mines, Oscar Vera Gagurevich, a new edition of the annual Peru Mining Business Conference was inaugurated, which presented the national and international panorama and the challenges to boost the economy and the mining sector to the more than 250 attendees. From very early in the morning, the public attended the Marriott Hotel facilities to participate in the traditional networking, which is held as a preamble to the programmed presentations. During his presentation, Minister Oscar Vera stated that he is confident that by the end of the year, Peru will reach the figure of $7,100 million in investments. Since only between September and October 19, mining exploration, exploitation and beneficiation concession projects were approved for more than $955 million, and that progress is expected with expected projects such as Lasanja, Poderosa, and Inmaculada. He also reiterated that Peru offers great opportunities for mining investment and that the joint and coordinated work between the public and private sectors will increasingly strengthen the sector. After the minister's presentation, the Peru Mining Business cycle of presentations began, which this time included 4 sections. The International Mining Economic Block, which analyzed the context and future of mining, with the participation of Luisa Palacios, assistant professor at Columbia University, and José Gonzáles, editor of Rumbo Minero Internacional. The National Mining Economic Block addressed the topic, Challenges, Investments, and Competitiveness, which was developed through a roundtable discussion moderated by Luis Miguel Castilla, former Minister of Economy and partner at Videnza Instituto, with the participation of Elmer Cuba, partner at Macroconsult, Diego Macera, director of BCR, and José Gonzáles, former Minister of Labor and Professor Emeritus of Economics at Universidad del Pacífico. In the political bloc, Paola Bustamante, director of Videnza and former Minister of Development and Social Inclusion, Roque Benavides, president of the board of directors of Compañía de Minas Buenaventura, and Ivan Arenas, political analyst and specialist in communication and mining, participated. In the afternoon, the Mining Leaders Block, Project Portfolio and Expansions, was held, with speakers Ulises Solis, general manager of Macusani Yellowcake, Álvaro Barrenechea, advisor to the CEO Chinalco Peru, Andrés Franco, general manager of Bear Creek Mining, and Carlos Cotera, general manager of Antapacay SAC. Thus, the participants of the Peru Mining Business received valuable first-hand information from experts in economics and mining.
For Rumbo Minero TV, within the framework of Peru Mining Business, we meet Luis Miguel Castilla, former Minister of Economy and Finance. Luis Miguel, how are you? Welcome to Rumbo Minero.
How do you do? Thank you.
Tell us a little bit, what is your analysis of the current economic and political situation our country is going through?
This is a very complicated year. We are going to have an economic contraction. It has happened in the last 12 months, and unfortunately the year will close with a contraction and with 2 risk factors that are not minor. One is a child whose magnitude, this one, is going to be at least moderate. And this has a very important impact on many parts of the country, sectors that will be affected. And we will close the year again, as we started it, with a political crisis. A political crisis that puts the integrity of the institutions at stake, and especially the administration of justice, which is so important to preserve legal certainty and cause investment to resume. So it is a very difficult year. Towards next year there should be a small recovery, but it will depend on greater stability and greater political will to put the ordinary Peruvian at the center of the intervention. The mining sector can certainly help the economic recovery, but once again it requires administrative simplification, which has been announced and must be implemented. Projects that are currently paralyzed must be started up, and a much greater political will must be shown than the government has shown to date.
The Minister of Energy and Mines, Oscar Vera Gargorevich, was at the inauguration of the event, and he also mentioned the single window, which is about to be implemented. How much can this help to move forward with the mining projects in the pipeline?
I believe that this helps, as long as there is a re-engineering of the processes and a reconciliation between the objectives of a Ministry of Environment, a Ministry of Agriculture, a Ministry of Culture, which often have objectives that are not consistent with each other. So as long as there is a regulatory convergence, duplications are avoided and ineffective procedures are eliminated, a regulatory control is effectively applied to the quality of the regulations in each one of the ministries, a single window would work. which is not new. In fact, it was announced and created 10 years ago when CNACE was launched, which is now urgent in view of the opportunities that are lost due to cumbersome procedures that discourage investment.
Thanks, Miguel Castilla, for being on Rumbo Minero.
Thank you, very kind.
In this opportunity, I meet Diego Macera. He is the director of the Central Reserve Bank. Diego, how are you? Welcome to Rumbo Minero.
Hey, Miguel, how's it going? Nice to meet you, and thanks for
inviting me. And thanks
me.
also to you for being here. Diego, what conclusions have you drawn from this national economic panel that, well, from the presentation by Luis Miguel Castilla and the panel you shared with José Gonzáles Izquierdo and Elmer Cuba?
Let me see. I think we have in general, part of the consensus that it was a year to forget, wasn't it? The year 2023, where several things came together. Climate issue, conflict, especially at the beginning of the year, and a negative confidence, maybe the main thing. Those, hopefully, for 2024, and the tone, I think, tried to be more optimistic in the panel. Hopefully we can have a more limited impact of the El Nino phenomenon. The impact of the El Nino phenomenon, we have said in the last ENFEN projection, which points out that maybe there is a higher probability that this will not be so strong, but we will see. And then there is the issue of confidence, which is perhaps the central issue, which has not been recovering as fast as we would have liked. It recovered well after the departure of President Castillo a year ago, but from there it stagnated, and in recent months it has had a rather negative trajectory. So, if we want to recover investment, if we want to recover economic movement, the most important thing is probably to try to manage these messages and these actions that the government may have, especially actions more than messages, to recover business confidence.
Finally, there is talk of many mining projects, right? La Granja, Galeno, Michiquillay, etc. But there is a mining project that is already ready to go, which is Tia Maria, but it is not mentioned, or it seems that it is not on the government's agenda, or that it is something unpopular, right? How much would it help to move forward with a project like Tia Maria, and if you consider that it could be viable?
Yes, I think it is a very important project. I hope it can come out soon and during this administration, because beyond the economic movement in the construction phase, beyond the economic movement in the production phase, I think it would be a message of predictability, right? And more than anything else, of rule of law, right? On private investment, right? It is a project that has complied with all the phases it had to comply with. It has gone through all the regulatory process that sometimes is excessive. In spite of that, it has complied with it. And today, for reasons that we know, it still cannot come out. So beyond, I would say, the economic movement component, perhaps it would be even more important in terms of the message that could come out, especially if it comes out during this administration.
Perfect, Diego. Thank you very much, as always, for your deference to Rumbo Minero.
Me delighted.
And let's hope that in the coming months, things will improve.
Thanks a lot, Miguel. You're welcome.
Continuing with our coverage here at Peru Mining Business 2023, this time I meet Andrés Franco, the General Manager of Bear Creek Mining Company. Hey, Andrés, how are you? Welcome to Rumbo Minero. How are you doing? Tell us a little about the progress of the Coreni project. It is a long-awaited project, much mentioned.
Yes, in particular, it is a project where it has characteristics that are very... Why? Because it is the largest silver project in the world. We are talking about an approximate production of 453 tons per year. You know that we are already in third place in silver production, in spite of the fact that the country has the largest silver reserves in the world. We are trying, precisely with this production, to increase of approximately 3,200, 3,300 tons. Peru is going to reach 3,600, 3,700 tons. This will make it the second producer already, after Mexico, because Mexico is in first place, China is currently in second place, but with the production that Coreni is going to make, we are going to move to second place. So that is the expectation. That is why there is an encouragement on our part to make the investment, or to start investing in the year 2024.
Tell us a little bit too about this just mentioned lately, the issue of Puno. How are the relations with the communities going, right? How are you working with them?
Well, to say that it is going well is relative, because it is like going home, and that the whole family gets along with you. There are always difficulties, but in general terms, we have applied a policy adjusted to the environmental conditions of the place, and we believe that it is working very well. There is an extraordinary relationship and a good contact, and we have made a good team with them.
Tell us a little bit about how the work in the mine itself will be a little bit. The operations, right? The plants, right? The technology they can use.
Well, we are thinking of robotizing 100%. We are thinking more or less in the first years to extract 16 million ounces of silver. We can extract approximately 57 million ounces of lead. We believe tons of lead, 47 tons of zinc. So we believe that in this context, we are going to have a good volume of production, which will allow the mine to have a quite important recovery process to be attractive in the process of generating mining resources in the area. So we are doing well. This is an open pit plant. We are going to drill approximately 300 meters each one. That is the objective, and that is really quite a lot of work. We have drilled approximately 600 holes as to be able to drillings in order to be able to clearly identify which are the reserves.
Perfect, Andrés. Well, thank you very much for being on Rumbo Minero. We hope to have you on the program soon to continue learning about the progress of this important project such as Corani.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Later.
Continuing with our coverage here at Peru Mining Business 2023, this time I meet with Mr. Álvaro Barrenechea. He is an advisor to the CEO at Chinalco, Peru. Álvaro, how are you? Welcome to Rumbo Minero.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
What conclusions do you draw from today's presentations? From an event such as Peru Mining Business that seeks to project, right, the entire national and international economic theme for the following year?
Yes, well, I believe that this is the event that is already a usual tool at the end of the year to be able to make a strategic planning for the coming year. We have seen, well, the projections at international level, the vision of the stock exchange and the evolution of the price of metals. Is that right? And the global trends, as well as the local part and the political bloc. And finally, in the mining operations block, where we have seen, well, the problems faced day by day, faced by the companies in the sector, and the importance, therefore, of solving these problems in order to increase mining investment, which is so good for Peru in macroeconomic terms, and the microeconomic effect on ordinary people who have to realize that mining is the shortest way to development and to recover the path to development.
Álvaro, you, as a person linked to the mining sector for several years now, what do you think is needed to regain investor confidence in Peru?
Well, first of all, respect for the legal framework in force, right? This is a basic issue, the principle of ownership, which is an issue that must be observed and complied with to the letter. The other issue is this, stability in the legal framework. The third issue is this, the stable political climate as well, because this idea that the economy and politics are running on separate strings is no longer the case. And I think we are suffering the consequences a little bit. That is to say, we were talking about the fact that there have been, well, some steps that were against the development of the mining sector. And we see through today's presentations that mining investment is the solution to be able to return to the path of growth, as I already mentioned.
Finally, Álvaro, how is the work going at the mine in Toro and also the issue of the expansion?
Well, we are working, the operations and construction team is working hard to be able to conclude in the shortest possible time with the expansion, and that and the commissioning, pre-commissioning and commissioning term to give the entry into production of this increase to result in the expansion of 170,000 tons.
Perfect, Álvaro. Thank you very much for being here at Rumbo Minero.
1,000 thanks to you. Thank you.
Well, that was our report. I hope you liked it. It has been a great event, and we are very happy with the conclusions that have been reached and the opportunity that Peru has. Gabriela, what do you have to inform us about Expomina?
Thank you very much. Expomina Peru, the largest and most important mining meeting in Peru in 2024, with 16 years of experience, do business with the mining sector of Peru and America. Expomina Peru, from September 11th to 13th, 2024 at the Centro Exposiciones Joaquín Lima. Portfolio of mining projects in Peru for more than $53 million, and portfolio of mining projects in America for $450 million. Invest with the leaders. Participate in Expomina Peru 2024. For more information, please visit our website www.expominaperu.com.
Well, we now meet José Gonzáles in our America Mining block, but we meet José Gonzáles live and direct. He has just come for the Peru Mining Business. His visit is very important. He is the international editor of our magazine Rumbo Minero, a collaborator of CNN, among other things. How are you, Jose? Welcome to Peru.
Very well, Jorge. Delighted always to be here.
Welcome to your land.
Thank you.
Jose, in the introduction, I was talking about something that I would claim that the institutions that make reports, investigations, we always see the tables of reserves, and we see the tables of production, right, of minerals. But yesterday in Peru Mining Business, this week in Peru Mining Business, you talked about minable. You want to, and it is very true because, for example, what you said about Canada, Panama, a big mining project was already this week canceled, so it is no longer mineable. So what is the point of having a country like Panama that you are talking about the resources that you have if in fact at this moment it is impossible to move forward with that project? Tell us a little bit about this concept.
As you know, Peru is the second copper producer, the third, if we enter into this discussion, whether Congo is going to be the second or not, but it is a temporary question, and it is the third or fourth country with copper reserves. Australia is the first, Chile is the second, Chile is the first, Australia is the second, Peru is the third. However, the concept of minability it points to two fundamental variables: infrastructure for the exploitation of the mineral, and the value and the cost associated with that infrastructure of the exploitation, so that the copper is viable, commercially viable.
And where is the policy? Is it also there?
It is the environmental risk that exactly the legislative framework that allows or does not allow the exploitation of copper. The Panamanian case is serious, it is important and perhaps serious because certain environmentalists are taking the Panamanian case as an example to follow. There is going to be pressure that must be taken into account. And Peru has the largest mineral copper reserves in the world. That is why it is the most important, most attractive, and most valuable destination.
Why does it surpass Chile, and why does it surpass Australia in minables?
In the Australian case, the infrastructure to exploit the mines does not exist. If you look at the Australian map, all the development of Australia is on the coast. It is like in Canada, and the mines, the reserves are in the center of the country. And there is a very big pressure to preserve the Australian indigenous cultures because of previous practices of mining companies that have generated internal policies.
Are there any unchanging political issues?
What happened with Rio Tinto in Mongolia, that mine ended up costing immense fortunes. And in the case of Chile, copper production in Chile fell 7% last year. It has fallen 14% in the first half of this year. Cochilco says it is going to fall 30% because Chilean copper mines are old mines and there is no water. And this means that the mines have to grow, the grade is falling, the associated costs are very high. And in Peru, we have infrastructure, we have a good grade. It is not the best in the world, but it is important. We have a legislative framework that proposes mining. We have more and more miners and mineable copper reserves. The price of copper rose this week due to the announcement of the closure of the mine in Canada. A mine, as you know, does not close overnight. In Panama, it does not close overnight. First Quantum, the Canadian mining company that is in Panama, bought the rights to La Granja from Rio Tinto. Because of the Mongolia issue, there is a big discussion about how it can or cannot finance La Granja. But First Quantum is important. It will find ways. There is going to be an important confluence in terms of copper exploitation in Peru because this deficit, this has been a complicated year for the producing companies.
Someone needs to produce what won't be produced on the other side.
Luisa Palacios was saying yesterday in her presentation on the subject of energy, she said that growth depends on energy, and energy depends on the capacity to generate electricity, and the energy transition depends on that capacity. It is a value chain, and everything goes through copper. And copper is in Peru, the global destiny of copper. I was telling my fellow countrymen in Arequipa last year in a conference that the La Salle University invited me to, and I was telling them that the next evolutionary leap of humanity passes through the south of Peru, and it passes through Arequipa, and also in that confluence, where are the next two big projects, Tia Maria and La Granja. and Tia Maria is owned by Souther, which is owned by Grupo Mexico. And in the agreements between Xi Jinping and President Biden in San Francisco, within the framework of APEC, there has been an agreement between the parties to compete without conflict, and this involves critical minerals in Peru and nearshoring, friendshoring, this tendency to bring certain critical strategic industries closer to the Americas to avoid tensions with China, involves Grupo Mexico, Southern, Tia Maria, when the price of copper, which has remained high this year, but with certain moderations, will continue to rise in the future.
Soon,
you mentioned Luisa Palacios, and we were fortunate to have her participate in Peru Mining Business. She is a senior researcher at the Center for Global Energy Policy at Columbia University in New York, and she spoke about the global energy markets at a time when OPEC has postponed its face-to-face meeting. She is going to have a main meeting addressing this drop that has taken place with Brent, where it is trading below $80 a barrel. What is happening in the energy market?
We were talking about that with Luisa yesterday, as you know, Cesar, this week at the Peru Mining Business. And the price of oil that was expected to reach 120, 150 is below 80, regardless of the geopolitical tensions. The United States is going to go into a recession next year because inflation continues to be a mild inflation, but inflation, and China is not growing more than 3-4%. And in those two trends, the price of oil is not going up. And what Luisa has talked about is the trends going forward, the energy transition, and the impact on Latin America, and how the emerging economies that depend are going to depend on energy to grow. We are better prepared for the energy transition than developed economies, particularly in Latin America, because we are not dependent on fuels and our carbon emissions are lower. However, we consume more because we need more energy. That is the big challenge going forward. And before to build us oil, we are going to consume more oil. Therefore, this moment of the pressure on oil prices could increase going forward, but nothing indicates that oil is going to recover the record levels we saw earlier this year.
Thank you very much, Jose. As always, we are going to have you present next week as well. And all these topics are going to be discussed, as always, in the magazine Rumbo Minero, where you are the international editor of our magazine.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you very much. As you all know, Rumbo Minero magazine is free. You can download it on the web at www.rumbominero.com. Every 45 days, we have all the information from the most important magazine in America, Rumbo Minero America Mining, with all the information that Jose Gonzáles has just informed us. Cesar.
That's right, Jorge. It is time to present the block of the Institute of Mining Engineers of Peru.
The International Congress of Prospectors and Explorers ProExplo is the second most important mining event in the country and the most relevant in terms of exploration and geology in Latin America. The importance of exploration lies in the fundamental role it plays in the discovery and establishment of new mining projects. For this reason, ProExplo is a mandatory meeting for companies and professionals working in the sector. In its most recent edition, more than 3,000 people participated physically and virtually, and it is expected that its 14th edition will be held in 2025 under the leadership of its president, Walter Tejada. We look forward to seeing you at ProExplo 2025.
At the international level, the Peruvian Institute of Mining Engineers has continued its role of disseminating the country's mining potential in various international forums, such as the Society for Mining Metallurgy and Exploration, the Prospectors and Developers Association of Canada, and the World Mining Congress. In addition, since the year 2019, we were incorporated as members of the International Council on Mining and Metals, and we hosted the 100th meeting of the International Organizing Committee of the World Mining Congress. Currently, we are preparing to host the 27th edition of the World Mining Congress to be held in our country in 2026.
Peru Min is the leading mining convention in Latin America and the world, bringing together the most prominent leaders in the global mining sector. Government representatives, investors, researchers, and many professionals linked to this industry. For 70 years, our institute has been organizing this great event, where the challenges and opportunities of mining are analyzed. In its last edition, Peru Min 36 gathered more than 65,000 visitors from 56 countries and 23 regions of Peru, which turned Arequipa into the world's mining capital. The next edition of the mining convention will be chaired by Jimena Sologuren.
Rumbo Minero is also present in the main mining units where their operations attract our attention and should also attract the attention of each one of you. We are going to present to you, as we had announced, the visit of a team of our program to the El Toro mine of Summa Gold in Huamachuco, located in the region of La Libertad. Go ahead.
In Huamachuco, La Libertad is located one of the main Peruvian gold producers. It is Summa Gold Corporation, a company that has been operating the El Toro gold unit since 2019 under two fundamental pillars: the prioritization of cost and the incorporation of local contractors. And precisely because of its management model and commitment to Huamachuco and Peru, the mining company has an aggressive exploration plan underway, which, as revealed exclusively to Rumbo Minero, Jaime Polar, general manager of the company, would allow them to extend the useful life of the mine, even beyond 2035.
The constant work of our exploration area has allowed us to find new reserves in our deposit. That means that the life of the mine will probably go beyond 2035 years. That is what we are going to confirm at the end of this year. But that has allowed the company's plans to be more long-term. It also includes a benefit for the work of all the contractors and workers who work with us in the unit, because we have a long-term vision.
This important news would have a positive impact on Peru at different levels, since, for example, in terms of tax payments, the projection would exceed the estimate of 800 million sols, estimated for the year 2032.
We pay taxes to the state at a rate more or less of between $50 and $70 million. It means that probably in the life of the mine we are going to pay between 6 and 800 million sols in taxes, right? Which is a benefit for and a contribution to the country, so that schools, roads, hospitals, and whatever is needed can be built. In 2021, it was 71 million. 2022, it was a more or less similar amount. And this 2023, it is between 60 million, more or less. And that has an advantage too, because it allows us to do works for taxes. According to the new law, now we can do up to 80% of the income tax in works for taxes, right? So much so that right now we are on a road bicentennial, which will mean more than 20 million sols of investment under the modality of works for taxes.
According to Polar Parides, one of its axes is the integration of its miners, an aspect seen since its arrival in the region, when it opted to support the formalization of more than 5,000 miners, who are currently part of contractor companies.
In this business model, what we have done is to incorporate former illegal miners as our workers. We have incorporated and supported the training of many small companies. The company is also comprised of former illegal miners that provide all the services that the mine needs. Construction, carpentry, food, masonry, and all the services that the company may need are provided by these companies that have been formed, but also the core of the operation, which is earth moving. That is to say, loading and hauling is provided by regional and local companies, so we have turned them into entrepreneurs.
How many contractors are working with, and of this total of contractors, how many are local suppliers?
No, more or less. In our main activities, we have about 40 companies that provide us with different types of services. Of those companies, more than 95% are regional and local. It is part of the business model. Just like the workers of 100% of the unskilled labor is local labor, local labor, local labor. Local labor, local labor.
And do you have an estimate of how much the mine purchases from local suppliers?
Look, you see, on the subject of contractors, that is in earthworks. You have STL. More or less every year is around 260 million souls with them, and services minor, an average of 35 million souls per year.
Production process. With a mining plan programmed until 2031 at a rate of 85,000 ounces per year, Summa Gold carries out world-class mining to exploit its 900,000 ounces of exportable ore from its scattered gold deposit. Thus, its creative process begins with drilling and blasting to give way to the movement of large quantities of material, which will be taken to the process area, where it is determined which material is valuable. Ricardo Araujo, operations director of the mining company, pointed out that there are stages such as hauling, leaching, adsorption, desorption, and others, which require optimizations to make the mine more productive.
We have worked under the philosophy of continuous improvement. We have worked to optimize all our operations and our processes. But logically, could I describe the unitary operation that means the highest cost within the operation, which is haulage? Haulage accounts for 50% of the total cost of mine management itself, so we have placed more emphasis on optimizing this unit operation of haulage. And I can proudly say that our unit costs are quite competitive with the sector.
Digitization is a vital and important aspect for the company. Please let us know what projects you have in the pipeline.
Well, I completely agree with what you mentioned. We have worked hard on digitalization, and I would like to tell you that for that, first, we have had to improve the communication. Communication coverage is fundamental for us to be able to implement this digitalization. We have implemented the most important project we have done in the last years, logically, is the internal or in-house development of a dispatch, which is the control center of all operations. We have reduced the cost of hauling from values of $1.6 per ton.
Environment and social responsibility. Thanks to the implementation of a constantly improving environmental policy, Summa Gold has achieved a series of milestones that demonstrate its commitment to environmental sustainability. Among them is the acquisition of the first and second star of the Carbon Footprint Program, awarded by the Ministry of the Environment. But what were the initiatives that led to this recognition? According to Sandro Sanchez, Summa Gold's environmental superintendent, in the year 2001, they implemented a fleet of dump trucks with state-of-the-art technology that allowed a 20% reduction in CO2 equivalent emissions.
By the year 2023, we have had the project for the conversion of the energy matrix.
That our ADR plant used to use diesel fuel, right? So what we have done is to implement a 22.9 kV line, which has allowed us to use clean energy.
We understand that all the work you do is not only limited to the mine area, but also to the surrounding areas in which you have direct influence.
For the expansion of the mine, properly speaking, we are doing environmental compensation work
that are basically referred to are immersed in the reforestation program. We are covering virgin areas to recover ecosystems.
On the other hand, the mining company reaffirms its commitment to Huamachuco and La Libertad through investment in agriculture, education, water, and sanitation projects, as well as business opportunities for approximately 60 local companies and the generation of employment for 700 local workers.
Very interesting, this report from Huamachuco, La Libertad. Well, now we go to Gabriela Chicoma. Do you have anything to tell us about Expo Mina?
Thank you very much. Expo Mina Peru, the largest and most important mining event in 2024 with 16 years of experience, with the special participation of the United States as the guest mining country. Expo Mina Peru is the only Peruvian event certified by the United States Department of Commerce. Do not be left out and be part of this great mining event. Reserve your booth at Expo Mina Peru. For more information, visit our website, www.expominaperu.com.
Well, thank you very much, Cesar. As always, on behalf of the Digama Group, Both Jorge Leon Benavides and Cesar Campos, thank you for being with us. Don't forget, in a few minutes, we are going to be with IEE, the Peru Construye program, to talk about everything related to construction and infrastructure. Thank you very much.